Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Rangers Review post-match reaction video after Rangers battling goalless draw against Sparta Prague over there in the Czech Republic. Joshua was at the game for us. It looks a tad windy there, Joshua.
It is. It's just getting a bit cold, so I'm going to zip my jacket up, Derek. But it was good conditions for the game, as you say. I think battling in the end, a game where Rangers weren't. They might have won the game at the end, but it didn't look like they were going to win it for large parts of it. But crucially, they didn't lose. I think it's the first 70 minutes of that type of performance, Derek, is the game where if Rangers, let's say Rangers concede in the 70th minute and go on to lose, all the kind of optimism that's been built over the last week that comes naturally with a new manager, but was obviously built upon by the performance at Hibs at the weekend, that all is gone. And the kind of doomsday from before when Clement came in that was there after the Aris game away from home is kind of back in spades. But because Rangers, I think, managed to find a way to hold on, it was a lot of one-way traffic for the first 60 minutes. Clement in his press conference, you can read it in full and you'll be able to watch it in full soon on the website and the YouTube channel. Kind of split the game into two halves, and he felt the Rangers were much better after the second half. And Sparta Prague, I think they've only failed to win once at home this season. They're a good team, and you can always, it's easy to forget when you just expect Rangers to play well that there's an opposition there who were really good for the first 60 minutes of the game. But as we'll come on to discuss, I'm sure, I think they kind of they fell out of steam a little bit, but then Rangers, I think, a couple of good substitutions. They got a couple more ball carriers in the middle of the pitch, and I think crucially they did something which they hadn't done for the first kind of hour, 70 minutes of the game. They managed to play through Sparta Prague's press, create some opportunities, and could well have won it at the end when Danilo hit the crossbar. So in the end, I think it's a performance, more a result that gives you something to build on rather than a performance. Rangers had to adapt without a left back. Clement chose to change his shape, and in the end, they get a point that, in the grand scheme of things, 0-0 away from home leaves you with 4 points, joint with Sparta. But crucially, Rangers have two winnable home games, which, if they perform to expectation, should see them go through to have Europa League football after Christmas.
Yeah, this is a good side, remember, the Czech champions, top of the league this season as well, and Rangers coming into the game, of course, after a ropey start to the season, so I think it is a good point, especially after a first half where they were on the rack for much of it. They were very fortunate, I think, to go in at half-time goalless, but they grew stronger as the game wore on, and perhaps unfortunate not to take all 3 points. A few opportunities. Danilo with an absolutely rasping volley. It was unfortunate. It was a terrific save. Lammers should have scored for me with his chances. In the end, I think Rangers finished the match stronger. Let's get to a few of the comments that are coming in. Very differing views on what we just witnessed. Neil McLean with the point says, do you think we were fitter? Sparta seemed to tire in the last 30 minutes. I totally agree, Neil. I think that was the case. I think it just ran out of steam, Josh. They sort of threw everything at Rangers in the opening, 60, 70 minutes sort of thing. And when the goal never came, they should have scored, incidentally, in injury time. How they've not managed, that was a tap-in for the boy, but I've no idea how they've managed to spun that opportunity. Alan Kelly with the point, he says, a game changed when Cantwell went off. Never had his best of games tonight, Joshua, didn't he? Wasn't the only one, of course, but it wasn't his night tonight, Todd's.
Still getting back to full fitness now, and I did think there was actually two occasions. There's that one occasion where he carried his team all the way up the pitch. I think from the outright, Dessers and Lammers had a difficult night. I don't think there's much you can say. And Clement said they did I think that's a good physical job for the team. But in terms of an option to either go over the press or go through the pitch, I thought Lammers looked like a player who's still playing without confidence. And he has that shot where he could have, in the end, won the game for Rangers. But I just don't think there was enough until that last 20 minutes where Scott Wright came on, and he again should have done better with a couple of opportunities, but he carried the ball forward. Raskin seemed to get on the ball a lot more, and then in Danilo, I just think you had more of a not a physical focal point up top, but there was something to hold on to up there. And his chances are a perfect expression of that, because yes, the momentum had started to swing towards Rangers at that point. I think Sparta tired. I think they gave so much to that first 60 minutes. And Butland made a few really big saves. It wasn't as if he had 10 kind of world-class stops, but he was there when his team needed him. And I think listen, that's what a goalkeeper should do. It's not as if a goalkeeper should never make any saves, and whenever they're called into action, it's the worst thing in the world. But to have a goalkeeper who you can rely on, who stands up in big moments, was really important.
Yeah.
And as I say, that last 20 minutes, I think what Rangers did well. I think their issue, Derek, was that Sparta were pressing them man for man, forcing them back to the keeper, and because Rangers didn't have the ball wasn't sticking up front, they weren't able to stretch in behind. And Sima, who normally would give you that option of stretching it in behind, was so often pulled backwards to playing that left wing back role, which I thought he did really selflessly and worked so hard for the team. But then I don't think Rangers had players with confidence to really carry the ball through the pitch, and because Sparta were pressing them so intently, and contrastingly, Sparta found it easier to play through Rangers shape. With that change in the last 20 or 30 minutes, the stadium sensed it. The stadium at full time was quite flat because I think Sparta know that they maybe not needed, but it would have given them a big benefit going into the last 3 games if they'd been able to get a win tonight. And on the basis of the first 60 minutes, they'll feel that they should have won the game. But to Rangers' credit, they held in there. They managed to kind of change the tone for the last 30 minutes, and they got the rewards for that, because up until 60 minutes, I don't think there'd have been many happy viewers of that. Instead, at 90 minutes, Rangers could have snatched it. You're right, they have a great chance as well, Sparta, where they should square to score. But the difference is, because it's 0-0, it's a result to build on. It keeps Rangers very much alive in this group, and the kind of goodwill that's been built up over the last week doesn't kind of completely dissipate, which it would have done had Rangers lost that game, as the first half looked like they were about to.
Yeah, no, I think it very much maintains that momentum under Philippe Clement. I think that was a good point, all in all. Let's get to a few of the comments that are coming in. Ian Thompson says, I thought Lundstrom had one of his best games this season. He was all over the pitch tonight. Totally agree. And what a block in that first half, incidentally.
Yeah.
Celebrated like a goal. It got his body in the way. So, hats off to Lundstrom. I thought he was good tonight. Derek Gray says, Sima and Butland, excellent. Sima also thought he good. Philippe Clement described him as a soldier prior to the game, Joshua, and he was very much that. He was up and down that pitch all night. He thought he was really good tonight, Abdallah Sima.
Yeah, and how many players, he scored 8 in his last 7. He's been Rangers' main attacking threat. We spoke at the weekend about the fact that he gave you that performance where he scored 2 goals, had other opportunities as well, but he still covered his fullback kind of continually throughout the game. And tonight, I think he no ego there, no ego attached to playing left wing back or having to do so much running backwards or not being able to get in attacking positions. That was a real performance for the team, and I think it kind of epitomised the character that Clement will want, and that I think that last kind of half hour showed Sima is someone who started a little bit slowly, but I think now is really consistently becoming a big player for this team. And perfect example for I guess of the type of character he is as well, that he's able to kind of put the ego to the side tonight. Instead of playing in one of his favourite positions, he's at left wing back. He's having to run back continuously, and he was up and down that left flank right throughout the game. And Lundstrom, great block. I actually thought it was Raskin, because it was to the opposite side of the gantry. But I mean that's as big a moment as Butland saves as well, because there was a time in that half, I think they had 12 or 13 efforts before half-time and 16 come full-time Sparta. I know that doesn't tell the whole story. I think their expected goals was about double that of Rangers. But big moments from players to keep it at 0-0. And even though Rangers weren't at their best, still pretty thin on the ground when you look at the bench, they managed to get a point that keeps them momentum and keeps them alive in this group. Yeah,
lots of comments come incidentally for the referee, who was absolutely shocking tonight. I thought he was poor. Blue Nose John said the referee was a pure homer. He was dreadful, Joshua, tonight. I didn't understand some of the decisions. Card happy as well. Some of the decisions that he was given yellow cards for. The Sima one in that second half was a joke. Suter perhaps unfortunate to get booked as well in that first half. Some of the decisions were. In fact, the Lundstrom one as well, which annoyed me at the time, where he goes sliding in, he gets the ball, and then the lad trips over him, and he gives a free kick against Rangers. But you're not the best of performances from the match official tonight. I'll take issue about this comment that's come in here from Top G. He says, I think this is the worst Rangers team I've ever seen. For someone that lived through the banter years and what have you, I'll tell you right now, this is not the worst Rangers team of all time. And that was, I think, think that's a tad over the top, I've got to say, Joshua. But let's just focus on a couple of players. A lot of comments coming in here with regards to Dessers and his performance. You did touch on him and Lammers. I thought and they were poor again tonight. Ian McCutcheon says game changed when Danilo came on. Totally agree with that. Rangers just looked more threatening with the Brazilian leading the line. Pict says, let's just draw a line under Dessers. The guy is absolutely atrocious. So not messing about there. Danilo starts for you at the weekend, Joshua?
Yeah, I asked Philippe Clement at it, and he actually slagged me because I asked him about three questions in one. But I effectively said, look, I wanted to know when Danilo would be fit to play 90 minutes. But asking more, what type... We still, I guess, a lot of supporters haven't seen that much of him playing. So you asked about what type of player he can be for Rangers and what type of striker Clement thinks he is, and spoke about him effectively just being a killer in the box. Still thinks he wants to mould him into a player who, can't remember the exact quote, but something about what he needs to do for the team as well as just scoring goals. I think it was a return tonight to the type of performance we'd seen from Dessers before the weekend. We spoke about it a lot because we speak so much, you and I. But I think the difference between the game at the weekend, if you look at the through balls that Dessers was running onto, whether it be the one that Lammers plays for the third goal or Cantwell's for the fourth goal, Rangers have the territory and they're in the opposition's half and he's not isolated. Tonight was a return to him being isolated, and I just don't think that suits him because he's not quick enough to run in behind. There was a couple of occasions where he maybe didn't read if his teammates were playing into his feet or if he was to peel off. And it was a type of game tonight where if you had I hate using club comparisons because obviously we just go to these images of players in our head, but it's a type of game tonight where if you're isolated, a Morelos in 2019 just takes you up the pitch on the shoulder. He's a different type of player, and I think too often Rangers almost try to play Dessers like that. There's no question that I think Saturday was a step in the right direction. I think tonight was a step back, and for me that comes a lot into the fact that he was quite isolated. He was getting played over the top consistently, and then there was a couple of opportunities where you just felt he could have got in there ahead of the goalkeeper. I think the moment where Cantwell kind of carries Rangers up the park, I just wanted him to put a head on the ball or get his body in the way, and in the end his contact was quite weak. And Lammers, I think he looks like a player who's playing without confidence, kind of turning back into situations as opposed to playing out. And listen, I think he's someone who he looks bright in pre-season. He's a player that I certainly have said I like and I've liked watching him when he came to the club. But again, from a step in the right direction on Saturday, this was a step backwards. And Rangers, not only Beale's tenure was in the end, I think, killed somewhat by the fact that he made these signings, spent his money in the final third, and the players, for one reason or another, whether it be quality, consistency, confidence, have not been able to deliver. And I do think there was a big difference when Danilo came on, just the movement he gave you, the energy. And even though Scott Wright, I don't think he's someone who is going to be a big player for Rangers necessarily moving forward, but he carried the ball and he turned and he drove Sparta more, and Nico Raskin the same. And I think that's what gave Rangers just more options through the middle of the pitch, because there was a moment around 65 minutes where they actually lost the ball, and it was just people passing the ball on, looking for someone to take initiative, looking for someone to take them up the pitch. And I thought in the last 20 minutes that certainly got a bit better.
Yeah, just on Lammers, a few comments coming in with regards to that. Ian Thompson saying, agree, Lammers look like he's lost confidence big time. Yeah, absolutely. I remember when I spoke to the Frankfurt podcaster when he signed, and he said when he was on loan at Frankfurt, he had a sort of mental issue, that he had all the talent in the world, but for one reason or another, he just couldn't put it all together in a performance. And I think that he's carried that around a number of clubs he's been out on loan at, and he's carried it to Ibrox as well. By the looks of things, he's just I wouldn't play him on Sunday. I don't think he adds anything to this Rangers team, I've got to say, at this moment in time. He needs taken out the side, but I would rather play one of the young lads, I've got to admit, than me and Christine never had him in our predicted lineup. I had Todd Cantwell, I had Scott Wright in there. He came on in the second half. Did recently okay. I know he's not everyone's cup of tea, but Lammers, for me, it was a poor night from him and Dessers. And you're just thinking to yourself, is there something you can cling on to? Dessers scored at the weekend. You're thinking, could that be the start under a new manager? But tonight it was same old, unfortunately. And RFC 72, just on the issue about players taking responsibility, and those forward attacks at times. He says we lack so much pace in this squad. You totally agree. That is something hopefully the manager will look to rectify in January and going forward. Peggy McPhail with a point towards you, Joshua. She says, happy with the draw, better second half. Good article, Josh, and I hope you got something to eat. I know
not yet, Peggy, but I look forward to it after this video. So I don't know what I can't even think of what article that is. I can't think what day of the week it is at this point, Derek. But appreciate it, and I'll update in due course about whether I do manage to get some dinner in Prague tonight.
Yeah, I hope you find a kebab or something out there, Joshua. I'm sure you'll be looked after in the Czech capital. Just on the worst Rangers team, Andy Campbell says, Texaco Cup defeat to Chesterfield was the worst team ever. You'll be too young to remember that. That was before my time as well. I did speak to one guy that played in that Chesterfield side and scored against Rangers, former Rangers youngster as well, Phil Bonnyman. I spoke to him about that a few years ago. And that was a dreadful night on that occasion. Right, let's move on to another player that came in tonight, Joshua, and I thought he did well in place of that Borna Barisic. Ridvan Yilmaz, of course, not in the left-back position. Ben Davies preferred there to Adam Devine. Stuart Palmer says Ben Davies actually played well tonight. I thought he had a decent game, did you not?
Yeah, and I think he spoke about this before, but he's someone who, while he's had some difficult games in his Rangers career, I don't think he's had a mountain of mistakes. At times he doesn't look imposing enough. At times maybe in the air he can be beaten a little bit easily, and that was the case in the first half. But overall, I do think Ben Davies gets a wee bit of a hard rap. And tonight I thought he came in and did well. Probably Rangers' best defender. I think Suter quite consistently seems to be getting caught under the ball at long throw-ins and crosses into the box. There was that one moment in the first half, Hanlon's opportunity of the weekend, and it came from that kind of long throw as well. And at points, Goldson missed that tackle late on when Sparta almost should have scored with that cut back. I thought he struggled when their number 7 came on and he was isolated up against them. With that said, I think we need to caveat probably this whole discussion with the fact that the solution that Clement went for was to change shape altogether. And he said, in short, look, it's difficult for a team to go and play this entirely new system when you've only had 2 training sessions to work on it. So I think that probably comes into a little bit of the disconnect on the ball and off. I still think that's an issue that we've seen all throughout the season and will take time, as Clement keeps going back to. He says he likes puzzles and at the moment it's just picking the pieces for each individual game and trying to work out how Rangers crucially get results while they wait for performances. And that's something that they've not done so far this season, Derek. When they've not played well enough, they've lost big games like the Old Firm game that put a big dent in the season. But tonight, even when they weren't at their best, even when they were without a lot of players, they managed to they managed to get a result. And I see there's some comments, Rangers going back to outswingers tonight and Ben Davies taking a corner, which was reminiscent of Harry Kane for England taking corners. But that's obviously, I think he's the only left foot in the squad. We spoke about that this morning or yesterday, the fact that Rangers wouldn't have a left footer if he didn't play, and they obviously preferred to take out swingers all night. But it was interesting to see a centre back take a corner. Can't say I've seen that in a while.
Yeah, I've got to say I prefer in swingers if I have to choose a corner variation, Joshua. I'm an in-swinger fan, I've got to admit. What about you?
I think it depends a lot on the opposition, because obviously I didn't watch much of. I watched one Sparta game in the lead up, so I can't say I knew lots about them coming into the game. But I imagine it's more looking at, okay, this team they use this zonal setup and they've got a weakness here, trying to match your strengths to opposition weaknesses. Generally, I agree with you in swingers, because I just think the basic fact that it's more likely, I don't know if this is true statistically, but if no one gets a touch on the ball, it's at least moving towards the ball. You're making defenders defend backwards. But I think it's probably quite specific. It's obviously something we spoke about on yesterday's morning briefing. No success from it tonight, but interesting to see Ben Davies taking corners tonight.
Yeah, it certainly was, and he did well. So fair play to him. Just on the issue of your dinner, Joshua, Haggis says, "Food is great in Prague. Get a pork knuckle and chips." Have you found pork knuckle and chips anywhere at all? Not the most appetising of names, is it? So don't know if I'll take you up on that, but thank you anyway for the recommendation. Yeah, thanks for the suggestion. Right, folks. I think that'll do us there. A good hard-earned point for Rangers tonight. We'll let Joshua head off into the night after a good work all round. There's lots on the website, folks. Joshua's instant analysis on there. As he mentioned, the transcript of Philip Clement's press conference. You can watch that over on the YouTube channel as well. We'll be on back on tomorrow morning to dissect the game in more detail. But I think over the piece, after a sort of difficult first half, it's fair to say, in bits of the second, I think we'll take the point and move on. I think Rangers will take care of business, I think, at home. 6 points you'll be targeting in the next couple of games, Joshua. I think that is more than achievable.
Yeah, I mean, if they can't win those 2 games at home, they definitely don't deserve to go and play Europa League football after Christmas. But it'll be a different game at home for Rangers. Betis away will be difficult. Hopefully they've qualified by that point. But you'd expect with Aris and Prague that Rangers will be confident. They'll be the happier of the 2 teams going into the dressing room, and I think you could sense that in this stadium at full time, that this crowd knew that was a missed opportunity in their aspirations to play Europa League football after Christmas.
Yeah. Right, folks, that'll do us there. Thanks to Joshua. Safe travels back to Blighty, and we'll speak to you tomorrow.